the representation station. It's Monday, August 3rd. Brent crude oil today is at $83.92. Although at the pump, I think diesel's still near $5 a gallon where I am. We've got two major wars continuing, one in Iran, the other in Ukraine. I'm joined by Roger, our resident CPA. I am an attorney licensed in Montana and Wyoming. And I just got done with Cheyenne Frontier Days, the daddy of them all. And then I had a baby. And
your wife had a baby. You became a father.
We had a baby. We had a baby. Yes. You got it, Roger.
Hey, accountants require specificity. I'm good, man. I've had a hard weekend. You heard me talk about my elderly neighbor across the street. She's in the hospital twice in 1 week. Oh. This time under a protective order from the State Department of Social Services. She's in rough shape. Her body's in a crisis, so she's going to be there a while. Anyway, there was a lot this weekend for those of us in the neighborhood who are engaged with her and trying to help her. It was kind of a messy weekend.
Sorry to hear that.
Honestly, it's the best thing for her. She needs this help.
Well, fair enough. Hi, can you hear a fan in the background for me?
No. Can you hear a fan?
Okay.
I guess I'll have to turn my fan off then.
No, your fan is off, or at least the one I can see.
Oh, that's the ceiling fan. That doesn't make any noise. The little round one that I sit on the floor, it's about this big around. It blows the cold air up. That's the one that makes noise.
No. Yeah, I've got a giant fan right over here circulating air. I am out in my shop, so as to not disturb the baby or my sleeping grandmother.
So tell me this: is it a big ass fan? Big ass brand fan? There's a brand of fan out there called a Big Ass Fan. Look them up online. They make fans for like industrial locations, factories, that sort of thing. Yeah. Great big fans.
Yeah. Speaking of fans, thank you to all the fans who have been joining us, and I hope that you all are considering coming to the No Cap Fund and the Representation Foundation's annual meeting. It's going to be August 22nd. There's live and virtual. It's going to be live in person in right outside of Manassas, Virginia. Roger, what's the name of the venue?
The place where we're having the meeting. I haven't committed it to memory. Sorry. I'll look it up.
Yeah. We'll get that for you, and certainly before we end the show. And Roger, I've been living under a rock, so I haven't heard anything that Trump has said for weeks. I've just been off the computer. What is going on?
All right. So is the name of the place Sunshine Winery?
Yes,
that's it. So the annual meeting will be taking place at a business in Virginia, Northern Virginia, named as the Sunshine Winery. And also earlier that day, we are having a historian walk us about a battlefield.
That's right. And you can RSVP for both of those at y435.org. Should take you to the Project No Cap homepage, and you should be able to book your ticket. If you're not a member, you can become a member. A yearly membership is $100. That gets you voting rights, representation. That's what we talk about all the time. And I don't know. You can also volunteer if you're interested, and we'd love to see you out on the battlefield, as they say.
And even if you can't make it to Virginia on August 22nd, we still want to have you as part of our group. Please join us. Either visit the website, sign the declaration, donate if you can, if you're able. Find a way to pitch in and help carry the load. Any of those things are appreciated.
Yeah, it was basically 4th of July for me, and I thought my wife was going into labor, and then we thought that she was going into labor for weeks and weeks. It felt like years and years, and then it happened. We were at the doctor, and they didn't let us leave, as they say. And yeah, it's so crazy what we've all gone through.
Oh yeah. So you ask what Trump has said because you haven't been paying attention.
Yes.
Well, he said a lot, and not a damn word of it was true. Not a word.
So we shouldn't utter any of it. What is he doing? Well, what's happening on his behalf? What is he doing accidentally well and unfortunately bad that we're going to have to repair?
The last thing I heard about on the evening news was he saying, this is Iran's last chance to make a deal before decapitation. He's not going to decapitate anybody.
Well, again, it's a headless monster. That's what he, that's the whole piece. It's
yeah, he essentially done that already. Yeah.
It's indoctrination from birth. So, okay. Well, what about Ukraine? What's going on in Ukraine?
Well, okay. So one day last week, Trump had said that he was going to allow Ukraine to manufacture Patriot missiles under license. Apparently, in the past couple of days, that's been reversed. I just was hearing about this today. He's reversed his decision. Ukraine's out of air defense projectiles, right? When Russia launches missiles at them now, the missiles get through because they basically got nothing left. And Trump's going to pull this away. He had to talk to Putin about it, of course. People tell him things. Putin's doing this. Putin is sharing classified photographs of American bases and positions. He's sharing them with Iran so they can be more accurate in their targeting. Trump has told this. He says, oh, that doesn't sound right. I'll ask Putin about it. Are you freaking kidding me? Whatever.
I mean,
I can say...
I think gathering information, asking for information from people, even if they're lying to you, is still valuable. Sometimes.
I won't necessarily disagree with that. But the problem is you have to have a filter that allows you to discount disinformation. And he has none, specifically where Putin is and Russia, well, where Putin is concerned. I won't even speak about all of Russia.
Something I did see was Fauci. Did you watch any of the Fauci pleading the fifth?
No. Well, I saw a clip. Saw him say it a couple of times.
That is pretty infuriating to me. I mean, you've got a fucking pardon, and you won't tell us what happened. It's just sorry.
Look, Rand Paul is trying to catch him in a perjury trap. Why would he step into that? He's been before Congress before, has he not? He's written a book about it. He wrote all kinds of reports. There's all kinds of information. His diary has been released. There's nothing they could possibly hope to learn from Fauci in that room. The only reason Rand Paul worked so hard to get that meeting because he wanted a perjury trap. He said he wants Fauci behind bars. He hasn't found a way to do it. He's trying a perjury trap. Fauci's lawyers know this, and they tell him to take the fifth.
Be behind bars. I think Fauci should be behind bars.
What's the crime? What's the charge?
Murder.
Prove it.
Okay. Myocarditis. I mean, there's a list of young men who are dead from myocarditis that was hidden.
Well, have you filed suit?
No,
wrongful death suit.
Well, I don't represent the families.
Call them up. Be an ambulance
chaser.
The
government does. The point is that's the government's job. It's not a civil attorney's job. I think that, to me, Fauci is different than these other political prosecutions because he did directly, I think, harm people. His public policy failed, and people, and I think we will argue that his defenders will say he saved lives, and I will say at the cost of lying and permanently degrading our institutions. The process of science, and he should be punished. He should be behind bars.
Well, I'll tell you what.
For a period of time, I think it's good for everyone for Fauci to be behind bars. I think it's good for America. I think it would be that is a place where, there's he clearly had more knowledge than most of the other people, and his diary reveals that he was covering the truth. He was lying. He was actively lying. And do we really accept that as Americans? I don't think that a bureaucrat should be allowed to do so.
Dude, the entire Trump administration is built on a bed of lies. There is no truth behind everything they do. RFK was on TV this weekend lying about the vaccines cause autism. Jeanine Pirro is arresting people and trying to indict them, saying that they vandalized the reflecting pool. Jay Clayton is now the director of national intelligence, and he can't even sit in a room with Congress and say, yes, Biden won the 2020 election. He can't speak truth to Congress. How the hell is he going to speak truth to Trump? You think Fauci's lie is the biggest problem this country faces? You think Fauci needs to be behind bars for what he said or did? Are you kidding me? If you want him behind bars, then you got to want these other clowns behind bars. Hegseth, the murder of innocent people in the Caribbean, he has no proof that those people were drug dealers. He hasn't produced any proof that those people were drug dealers. You think Fauci's the biggest problem we have in this country right now in the government of the last two administrations?
I don't think he is the biggest problem, but I think he is, because of his position as a profession, Roger, like as a professional, right?
Yeah.
I think that he should be held to a higher standard. And
than a secretary, than an appointed, confirmed secretary?
Yes, absolutely. But when he was like a deep bureaucrat, right? Like the whole point is that if you're going to be a kind of a deeper layered bureaucrat, I think that the standards are higher than a politician, because you can't just vote the bastard out, right? Is the principle.
Yeah, I can see we're going to have serious disagreements on this. Did Fauci commit fraud, say something that he knowingly knew was false, or did he do the best he could with the information? No. Okay, point it out. If he purposefully lied, somebody ought to be suing him right now, today.
Okay.
Why isn't it happening?
Well, he's been pardoned by the president.
Okay. Was he pardoned for all time? Because, I mean, if he's a known liar during the Biden administration or during the first Trump administration, he probably told lies in the past too. Let's sue him. Let's indict him. Let's get him on the stand.
I mean,
you are
piquing my interest. I think it is.
It's a losing case. If you want to convict somebody of murder and deprive them of liberty, you're going to have very strong evidence. I don't think it exists.
No, they're not. It's not. I don't actually think he's guilty of murder.
You said murder at the start of this conversation. You said he was guilty of murder and should be behind bars.
You can't prosecute murder in a civil suit.
Okay, like I said, indict him.
You cannot prosecute murder.
You can prosecute wrongful death.
Who? Yeah, wait, so you
isn't wrongful death a civil matter? Isn't wrongful death a civil matter? Right? Yes. When somebody kills another and they're not convicted of murder, their family comes back with wrongful death.
Yes.
Sue him for wrongful death. Let's get in discovery. Let's find it out.
All right. I like it.
I think it's a losing case. And before we get that far, I think we should talk about Capital One closing 300 Trump bank accounts years ago because they decided he was money laundering. That's now out in the public space. What do you think about this idea that Trump committed money laundering and therefore he was kicked out of not just Capital One, but all American banks? That's why he had to go to the Russians and go to Deutsche Bank, right? That's why he was getting all this money from them and the teens, because all the American banks had turned down his business, probably because they knew he was money laundering too. What's your position on this?
Hot take. Trump is and has long been a asset of the intelligence agencies and has done lots of
whose intelligence agencies? Whose intelligence agencies?
U.S. and certainly the U.S. His daughter is married to somebody with other ties. One of his daughters.
Mm-hmm. Do you think he should be behind bars for money laundering?
Well, money laundering. Should these people be behind bars? Again, I think the resolution for political incompetence or evil is impeachment. It's
Oh, please.
to never
please.
allow them to hold public office again. And I think that there probably should be some select prosecutions and people put in prison. That's like what all Truth and Reconciliation commissions have done. But it can't be endless, right? Because if it keeps going back and forth,
yes, it can.
Forms of reality surrounding disinformation in COVID, right? That was like one of the biggest splits right now in America remains around vaccine safety and vaccination rates, and it's because of the harm. Again, I think that Mr. Fauci did in glorifying his name over actual rigorous methodology and or the slandering of or the attempt to dethrone Trump. I think that a lot of people on the right reasonably conclude that the Wuhan novel coronavirus that was likely created at the Wuhan Institute of Virology originated, at the request of, a certain global power center that with gravitation in China, but which does not exclude some of Trump's enemies. So
do you have evidence? Do you have evidence that's how it happened?
Yes. What?
You have evidence it was created in a lab and it didn't just get magnified in the lab? Okay, I'd like to see that evidence because I haven't seen it.
Well, the Department of Energy, I believe it would be the most highly respected report regarding the probability of it originating in a lab.
So it's a probability.
Well, that's all we have, Roger. It's intelligence.
Well,
intelligence is nothing but probabilities.
Yeah, okay. Let's get off of this. So you think the split in the American public about vaccination, the efficacy and safety of vaccinations is on Fauci. It's not on RFK Jr. It's not on this clown, the Attorney General in Florida, who is now saying,
RFK Jr. is not wrong about everything.
So you believe vaccines? You believe vaccine cause autism?
No, I did not say that.
What else? What else does he say that matters?
Here's what's clear. In the 80s, vaccine companies were given blanket liability waivers, right, by Congress. You know what other industries that happens for?
Firearms, probably.
Yeah. What I think that's it, because it doesn't happen, right? It's an insane thing, I think, because it gets rid of all the incentives for people to discover truth through civil litigation, right? So what we have is this VAERS database, and everyone hates the database because everyone reports everything, and so they just disregard it all. And the couple of studies they actually tried to do, they shoved under a rug, and it's all very, to me, it reeks of the type of depravity that was central to cigarettes being in the mouths of many doctors, right? It's money, right? And I learned this when I worked actually on Capitol Hill. This is a money-making enterprise. The flu vaccine is an incredible money-making enterprise. The entire vaccine schedule is just basically there's a huge vested interest in its continued existence. And so that's why if you push back on it, you get labeled crazy, because that's a tactic that works.
Well, here's a question for you.
Well, but I think it's important because it's one of these wedges, right? And it's just this, like, because of the rhetoric around it, around the 90s and the 2000s and now the 2010s and 20s, it's one of those issues for which it's like we have to have reconciliation in America. I think. I think we need reconciliation in America around the issue of vaccines, and that's why I think something that a prosecution of Fauci where the facts do come to light, where there is a report. Maybe he's not, but a report that we actually trust, right? Because we don't trust Congress, right? And so where does that come from?
I don't trust the courts at this point. Well, the Supreme Court. The district courts are doing pretty well. The appellate courts are not so bad, but the Supreme Court is not trustworthy at this moment.
Interesting. I feel like we're in
at least two of them sat in their congressional nomination confirmation hearings and said that Roe was settled law. They weren't going to mess with it. As soon as they got on the bench, they turned around and overthrew it. And it's not just the U.S. Supreme Court. I'm looking at the North Carolina Supreme Court as well. There was a gerrymandering case 3 or 4 years ago that was decided this can't happen because it's violation of state constitution. Elections were held. The makeup of the Supreme Court flipped. There was one more Republican on there, and they went and overruled their own ruling from less than a year ago in order to let the general legislature do more gerrymandering.
Yeah.
So I don't trust the North Carolina Supreme Court either.
I agree. I mean, I think really the jury trial kind of is the America's last saving grace or linchpin against,
Okay, but before we get too far afield, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Prior to 20 years ago, completely discount the last 2 decades. Were you or anyone you know skeptical of vaccines? Was it a widespread thing? Maybe I should phrase it that way. Was there widespread vaccine skepticism in this country 20 years ago or more?
Not at the levels we see today.
And what has happened in the last 20 years? The only thing, as far as I know, that's changed is we had COVID. We had to do a quickie vaccine, which Trump's team did, Operation Warp Speed. And they did a great job on that. Kudos to Trump administration #1 on Warp Speed and getting no to pay more. Good on him. But the point is, I forget what my point is because I got so excited about I got so annoyed about giving Trump props for anything.
This is interesting. I think we're gonna have to spend some more time on this topic, Roger.
Okay. What I see as a general proposition in the world is the Republican Party is skeptical of anything. Let me rephrase that. The Republican Party supports the people they support, and the people they support are they're not interested in higher education. They're trying to tear that down. They're not interested in vaccines, solid science. They're spouting stuff like vaccines cause autism, which cannot be proven with any information that we have at this moment. This is a fever dream of RFK. It's on and on and on. I find it difficult to spot anything at all in the current Trump administration that is desirable and working as intended.
Okay. I mean, there's no doubt that RFK has been forced to say things that he doesn't believe by his Lord Trump. But
the stuff he believes and says is bad enough. So,
but again, it's just
look, and don't put it on Trump. RFK Jr. He was a vaccine skeptic before. He was running against Trump.
Let me say one thing. If RFK Jr. was so wrong, he would have been sued for the things that he said about Anthony Fauci in his book, The Real Anthony Fauci. And I guess, to your point, right? It's like, if there was a there, I think that is a situation where you would see a lawsuit. And the fact that it hasn't been filed, I think Anthony Fauci is not saying everything he has to say, right? He's pleading the fifth. That's my observation.
Okay, and I don't blame him.
Yeah, well, you're right about that. I mean, I would advise him to take the fifth.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let's talk about other stuff. Let's
What-
talk
yeah,
about
what else?
let's talk about the Trump administration denying emergency aid to New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island for the storms in February 2026, while bunches and bunches of other states have been happily approved for that same thing. He's punishing Democrat-run states by denying them federal aid to rebuild after an emergency. What's your position on that?
It makes him not a statesman.
It makes him a horrible president.
Sure.
It's well below not a statesman. He's a horrible president. What president would deny
Time will
help,
tell.
help to any of his citizens? He's giving help to these other citizens, but he denies it to these others. What possible justification or defense can there be for that? It's a raw, naked political move, and that's about the only excuse.
Time will tell.
And so
he can still uncap the House, I guess, is what I'm getting at here, and kind of my quips is it's still possible that Trump uncaps the House. It's not probable, but I'm always holding out a glimmer of hope in a otherwise rather dark time.
All right. Well, I never say never, but I rate the odds as infinitesimal.
I'm wearing the white shirt. You're wearing the black shirt. I get the black writing. You get the white writing. I don't know.
But no, the chances of him doing anything that is going to give anyone else on the planet other than Putin more power is infinitesimal. He does not want to distribute. He won't even let his U.S. attorneys do their job. He's got to get into their shit too.
Have you seen Ivanka and Jared they bought a peninsula and they're also trying to buy an island in Albania?
Yes, not just an island.
Yeah, like a former military
a protected national park island.
Yes, I think that's the peninsula. I think the peninsula is protected. I think the island is like a military base.
Either way, the citizens ain't having it. The citizens ain't having it.
Protesting
for 6 weeks now, every night in the tens of thousands. Wow. The people ain't having it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder.
Do you think America is like Americans are just too. We have it too good. People don't show up. They're not. We are victims.
We are victims of our own success, because for very, very few Americans these days, there is no real struggle to survive, right? Your survival, when you wake up in the morning, your survival is pretty much guaranteed for the day. So you got time to waste. You got time to create art, read poetry, go down rabbit holes, make up lies, make up AI memes with disinformation to try and get money out of people. We are victims of our own success because we don't have to fight for survival. Now we fight about bullshit.
Yes. Amen, brother.
That's it.
Oh, yep. Yeah.
And
I noticed this actually I've had the privilege of spending weekends at some of the most preeminent clubs in New York, Long Island, downtown New York, and that's the thing that I noticed is people, they just sit around and talk about other people, right? Like they're just not like making things up, but they're entertaining themselves with drama that is half fact and half fiction. And it seems like there is a distraction all the way top to bottom, and that no matter how bad Trump has messed things up, it's like Walmart keeps having burgers and fruit and vegetables and whatever else. And yeah, it's like diesel's pretty expensive, but everyone can mostly afford it. What do you think is the break point? What is there a cost like $10 per gallon when people are just like in the streets?
Well, first I'll recount a piece of wisdom I've heard or read somewhere and repeated many times. Small minds discuss other people. Mediocre minds discuss events. Great minds discuss ideas. you're hanging out with people you say in preeminent clubs, and they're the small-minded people talking about other people. That's instructive. That putting those two pieces of knowledge together is now instructive. Preeminent clubs, people populated with people who are small-minded and spend their time discussing other people, gossiping essentially. So that's pretty interesting. Now, as far as a break point, wouldn't it be convenient if there was a nice, neat break point on the price of gas or the price of eggs or the price of auto insurance or what, if there was a nice, neat break point, but there isn't one. And it's one of those situations like, when you work in a corporation, as I've spent a lot of time working, the topic that is most often discussed by management is how to cut costs. Now, everybody knows there is some level below which you cannot cut costs without damaging the body, damaging the whole thing. But the only way to find that point is to cut and cut and cut until you've gone too far. And then, whoopsie, we got to come back a little bit. So that's what we find ourselves. We find ourselves in a situation where the lake is shrinking, the noose is tightening, call it what you like. At some point, the lake gets so small, the noose gets so tight that people are going to rebel. And that's what this is going to boil into, in my opinion. Hungry people got nothing to lose. And when they get hungry enough, they will come for you. And this is not, I'm not predicting anything or advocating anything. I'm saying, look at the sweep of history. When people get so hungry, they got nothing to lose, they will attack. And the billionaires would do well to read that history.
It just seems unlikely that Americans are going to be hungry anytime soon.
There's plenty of Americans who are hungry right now.
Not really.
Have you not heard the stories of the food banks running out of food because the demand is so high?
I just, relative to history and other countries currently, percentages are way down. Now, the instances of mental illness are quite high, and especially that coupled with the lack of housing.
I thought you were going to say with the lack of firearm regulations. Mental health and firearms, that's a winning combo too. Saw that again this week. Hell, right here in Greensboro, 40 miles from my house, 9 people were shot. Sunday morning, 2 a.m.
I mean, I think gun violence is the number one reason to uncap the House. I don't talk about it much because I don't like talking about gun violence because it's not a very friendly topic, but I think that's true. If you gave people more of a voice, they didn't feel like we were just all being taken advantage of. I think there would be a lot less violence. And that is a very Republican thing to say, right? It's like, it's not the guns, it's the mental health. And it's like, I think that when people don't have the money to pay for mental health treatment and the state is not paying for it, and they don't actually feel like they have a say in their life, right? Or a person to help them because their family has died tragically or, to drugs, they have nowhere to go and they don't have a representative to represent them in this just morass of regulations, right? And we have all these navigators and different social workers that try to fill this gap in society, but it's like having a million bureaucrats at the Social Security Administration is just not as good as a hybrid with the legislature, right? Where the legislative office is working super closely or integrated with each of these agencies and providing better services, right? And so if somebody needs mental health treatment, connecting them with the HHS or the local resources that already exist, and the navigator should be that's what our representative office should be doing, is helping people navigate life in America. And so then it goes to being better informed, right, is the next step. If you're stable and doing well, then your representative can help you better yourself, connect you with the local community college or the state university or, a job. they should be connecting us, like that. Our representatives should be our connectors, right? Instead, they're just like blocks. They're just playing defense for these mono. I mean, to me,
they're oligarchs.
But yeah, we live in a kind of a corporate oligopoly or something like that. There certainly are like some strong families, some very large corporations, and the interests like align in a lot of directions that have been really good for humanity. And they took the wheel. My perspective is around the time they capped the House, and we had World War I and World War II right back to back. And it's just like this megalithic power. And now it's time for them, those interests, to give a little bit of power back to the people, provide better customer service, have a more efficient economic engine, be more innovative, right? Because you're not stymieing people and getting them freaking shot, right? Because we don't have a solution to this quagmire. And let's go, right?
Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. Let's say we did have enough representatives in congressional districts where 50,000 people. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's a person in that congressional district that lives in that congressional district that's thinking of doing harm with firearms, and they have a mental condition, right? How is that representative going to find that individual and stop them from doing the harm before they take the shots? I agree. We should have a 50,000.
The sheriff, right? I mean, so I think your representative is kind of like that. If it crosses a certain threshold, they're going to alert law enforcement, and there's going to be a dynamic between them and law enforcement.
But it won't. The person who's planning to do harm is going to keep it secret. We're not going to know this person has this kind of mental illness until they act.
Right. I guess my point is some of it's mental illness. A lot of it is just social dysfunction because our society's screwed up.
Whatever. Mental illness, social dysfunction, straight up evil. The result is the same. A person gets their hands on a high capacity weapon and kills a lot of people, right? Yeah. We need to outlaw the high capacity weapons, leave handguns and shotguns. People can have all they want of those because they can't do as much damage as quickly out in public with those kinds of weapons.
I'm with Switzerland on this. I just think everyone basically should be trained in basic firearms and there should just be firearms everywhere and locked around people under the age of the training age, whatever that is, state by state. And because
we have parents who don't lock up their guns now. That's how the kid killed people in wherever. Georgia, dad got put in prison for it. They're not going to lock up their guns.
Right. And those people should be punished, I think.
Yes. After the fact, and sadly. After the deaths.
I mean, that's the trade-off of government, right? That's the trade-off of liberty
No, that's the trade-off of having high-capacity automatic weapons.
Okay, a car is equally as deadly.
Yes, and you have to have a registration and a license. You have to renew them every damn year in order to be able to drive that car. Yeah, and you have to have liability insurance. You have to have liability insurance to pay for the damage you do to other people. If we want to do all that for people who have high-capacity guns, great. Let's do that. Let's collect all their money so we can use it to pay out to the families of their victims.
I think that's not a bad idea. I think having an insurance requirement for high capacity.
Any gun. If you want a gun, you have to register it.
A high capacity. No, I don't think you should have to register any gun. No,
you have to register every car. Which car should we not have to register?
Well,
you made the comparison.
Farm vehicles. No, you're wrong.
That's not a car. It's a farm vehicle. If it goes on the road,
it is a car. I can go buy a brand new BMW and take it off the road and drive it around my private property and never have it registered.
Okay, agreed, right? But then it's not a.
So if I want to carry a concealed weapon on my person, I do not think that the government should be allowed to know that exists. I think that there's a fundamental reason that we believe that. And I feel it as fundamentally as I feel about the importance of representation.
How do you conceal a high capacity semi-automatic rifle?
Again, to me, the Second Amendment actually, in my brain, should go much further than a high capacity weapon, right? I think that should scale actually with the government, right? And I think that the problem is that the real problem is nuclear weapons, right? When you think about,
whoa, that's a big jump. I'll have to go back and figure out how we made that jump from high capacity weapons to nuclear weapons.
Well, because you can do a lot of damage with it, right? That's your argument. Your argument is that small capacity weapons are less problematic than large capacity weapons. We see people getting stabbed in Europe all the time.
It's very bad.
Right. And
but
so
it's only a few. It's only a few before the guy's taken down. He can't wipe out 80 people like the guy in Las Vegas did, right?
Oh, well,
he can only take down a few.
You want to talk about Vegas?
I'm talking about the number of people killed. That's all I'm talking about. I'm not the motivation.
Well,
anything else.
Here's my other observation is that criminals going to get high capacity magazines whether they want it or not, right? Like especially paid criminals.
Yeah, because our alcohol, tobacco, and firearms has been deliberately sidelined for decades. There was, 12, 15 years? We didn't even have a confirmed director of the ATF because Republicans don't want a director of the ATF.
Absolutely. Dude, there's some crazy shenanigans at the NRA that I can't talk about. But, there
was one incident.
Interesting conversation.
Let me finish this.
In Congress, if we wanted to amend.
Hold on a second. My wife is calling me. She knows I'm in a meeting.
She should be listening, Roger.
Yeah, she should be.
Oh, we got some people in the chat. Sorry, I was not paying attention. And my mouse has stopped working. Wonderful. Studio chat. Nope. Public chat. Lying public persons should be held accountable no matter what party they identify with. Should be. Dance battle between the accountant and attorney. Okay. I appreciate Roger's passion and can even relate to some of it, but he's interrogating poor Walter, who's taking it like a champ, as if Walter were Trump's megaphone. Thank you.
I'm only responding to what Walter says. I'm only responding to what Walter says.
That's fine. I get yelled at actually for a living, so this is.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. Oh, I don't get yelled at by my clients usually, but there are other people in the house, so you know.
Well, yeah, no, well,
Anyways, when I hear you say things that I find nonsensical, I want to try and drill down and get to the bottom of why you think it's sensical and I think it's nonsensical. I'm sorry that people think I'm attacking you. I'm really just drilling down on what you say to try and figure out whether I'm wrong or you're wrong. I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I need to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, I think there are, right, I mean, Las Vegas included, is one of these conspiracies, right? That there's what I would say is there's a large cult of conspiracy that has grown in America in its decline, especially post-Trump and COVID, kind of bringing it back to the beginning. And I think it's important when assessing like what is the plan to move forward, because I don't think, again, like it's just like how do we return to truth? And talking about prosecuting Fauci or anyone, right, from either side, in a court of law, when we don't necessarily trust the judiciary, and I think this is what we have said often, right, is we need to, prosecute people in an uncapped house, right? Is my point, right? Like we need an actual commission of the uncapped house to give the people a path forward as a community of people that lives and travels amongst one another. Right. And I think that it probably would lead to a series of amendments to the Constitution. We've talked about that a lot. But I really think that is the real solution to the Fauci problem and the vaccine problem, right, is uncapping the House. Right. It is about returning trust back to institutions through the proper channels, which is the legislature. Right. The legislature endowed all of these agencies with power, institutional fortitude, money to begin with. And so it is through that legislature that it's the only way for it to be returned. And so I would like to see Fauci thrown in a newly renovated jail cell that is put in the uncapped house. Maybe if it's just like for a day, as just like a token.
Who else? Who else are you going to put in jail?
I am not going to be the president of the United States or the Senate or the leader of the House, and so I doubt that I will be deciding. It will be a cacophony of people.
You're not going to decide Fauci. You're not going to decide Fauci either. But you said Fauci, and so now I'm calling you out and saying, who else are you going to put in that prison? So you can't just slough it off.
How triggered you are by Fauci and defending Fauci. I feel like this is the most fervent you've been.
Well, no, it's not even that. So the previous segment, we started off, I mentioned Las Vegas, and you said, oh, let's talk about Las Vegas. And you said there's a variety of conspiracy theories, and then you went wherever you went and ended up with Fauci. So let me ask you this. 60 people were killed. 867 people were injured. Which part of that is a conspiracy?
None of it.
Okay, so what the hell does a conspiracy have to do with the fact that a nutcase with high-capacity weapons shot almost 1,000 people in Las Vegas? It's not a conspiracy. It's a real thing.
Well, what was it? Was the event staged, right, in any way? I think is the question. That
867 people were shot. Does it really matter?
Well, yeah, it would matter. It's like January 6th, right? Were there federal agents in the crowd agitating for violence?
You don't seriously believe that, do you? You don't seriously believe that, do you?
Do I believe that there were federal agents in the crowd?
Yeah.
Yes, I know that to be true.
Trump's federal agents were in the crowd. He was the president at the time. It was his agents. He put them in the field.
I think you overestimate the control a president has over layered bureaucrats.
These were rogue federal agents that did this of their own accord, or was it someone below the president directing them to do it? Do you have evidence for any of this? Because it sounds like a right-wing fever dream to me.
Okay. Have you looked into the gentleman named Ray Epp?
I've heard the name.
So this would be a character that has been where you can kind of drill down on some of these facts. My understanding is that
is he like the whistleblower from the FBI who ratted out Biden? Turns out he was lying. Is he like that?
Wait, so of course there were undercover federal agents within that crowd. You would say it would have been negligent for those services to not have people in the crowds, right?
Okay, were those people?
What I would say is that each
pushing violence.
Well, so each man is like a person in and of himself, right? And
okay.
So what I would say is that that is another kind of flashpoint where we need an uncapped house to sort through these details, because it was an assault on our Capitol. I think it was grievous. I think it's terrible, but I think that there are two versions of the story, right, that are like diametrically opposed, and we don't have like a synthesis that most of the people can agree on, and that that remains troubling for me. And it is one of the reasons that I think we should uncap the house.
Well, here's a couple of simple.
Is another really important thing.
Here's a couple of simple questions. They're yes or no questions. Well, actually not yes or no, but they're short answer.
Okay.
Why were all those people in DC on January 6th? People don't normally come to DC in mass for the certification of the election. What could have caused all those people to be there? Because Trump said
they'd been
be there and be wild.
Down with COVID, and
so they left lockdown and drove across the country from Texas. A bunch of them paid big money to fly from Texas.
You'll remember that something else that preceded that, which were the BLM riots, where people were encouraged, despite the global pandemic, to go and gather and protest.
Which elected official stood at the podium and which elected official stood at the podium and egged them on to go do this BLM riot? Or were they organic arising? They were organic protests.
I don't know. I do not think they were purely organic. No, I think they were.
I was there, and I was in one, and nobody told me to go. I went because I wanted to go.
Yeah, so that's the way I sparked. For instance, I've clearly met paid protesters, and paid protesters do exist at many stations. That's a real thing in America. It's still illegal. Like, that happens. Do you dispute that fact?
I don't have enough information to dispute it or agree to it. I find if it is true, I believe it is very small, because I go out to these protests. I go to a lot of them these days, and nobody out there is doing it because they're all bitching about, I don't want to be here. I'd rather be at home with my kids. My legs hurt. I got people out there so old they have to sit on the seat of their walker that has a seat. They're not out there because someone told them to be. They're out there because they're pissed off.
I mean, what's also kind of interesting about George Floyd and BLM is, like, George Floyd was on a bunch of drugs.
Let's just kill all the drug addicts. Dude, they held him on the street for 20 minutes and kneeled on his neck. I don't care what drugs he's on. It's not right for them to kneel on the guy for 20 minutes on his neck and choke him out. That's bullshit. There is no defense for that.
But it's not.
So don't talk about the drugs. Chauvin murdered him, period, regardless of whether he was on drugs or not.
He literally wasn't the cause of death on the autopsy. But he was on multiple drugs. He was on fentanyl. I'm sorry, but I just think I do think
RFK was a heroin addict. Should he be killed too?
Well, if he was doing something, if he was resisting while on drugs, maybe. Yeah, if he was on heroin, but heroin generally puts people to sleep. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know that much.
What does fentanyl do as an opiate? It's supposed to put you to sleep. That's what the anesthesiologist uses it for. Anyways,
all I'm saying is that no, I don't think, like, George Floyd does not feel very organic. It did not feel like very organic to me.
And I don't see any comparison at all between what Trump did with that crowd that he brought to DC and what all these other crowds around the country in various cities did. I don't see any connection between the two. The BLM riots were organic. Okay. They didn't try to overthrow a government. They raged in the street. Yes, property got damaged, and I would love to be able to somehow figure out the individuals who did the damage to the property and what was their reason for being there, because I have theories about that, but I'm not going to go into it. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Well, I think basically what you're saying is, like, the Republicans were smarter. They actually tried to stop the certification of election. And
that's smart.
Well, if that's your objective, if that's the objective of BLM is to make change in government,
And so the speech at the Ellipse was just about stopping the certification. That wasn't about whipping the crowd into a frenzy. The only way he was going to have a hope of stopping the certification was to whip the crowd into a frenzy, and then send him down. He didn't just whip him into a frenzy on the Ellipse. He sent him down to the location of the crime.
There were
and he lied to him. Said he would be there with him.
300,000 ballots in Georgia now that got decertified after the fact, and they wanted to prosecute him criminally. We talked about this a while back.
Yeah, we talk about a lot of stuff that turns out to not be altogether as it happened.
In the late 1950s, early 1960s, trust in the federal government was in the 70s to 80s. After Vietnam and Watergate, it has never returned to those highs. Since 2007, has generally remained below 30%. There you go. Vietnam and Watergate. I mean, yeah, it's basically we're just continuing that. This, the military industrial pharmaceutical complex is, in full force.
Okay. The claim you've likely seen is not that 300,000 ballots were decertified. Rather, it concerns approximately 315 early ballots in Fulton County from 2020 election and whether election officials followed a required certification procedure. So, were the ballots decertified? No. There has not been a decision validating decertifying those 315,000 ballots or overturning Georgia's 2020 results.
Anyway, this happened before, right? The whole ballot certification thing. I mean, that's why I think there were probably some lawyers that said, well, this happened with whoever it was. I should have this off the top of my head. Is Kinley? My mouse isn't working. Anyway, we're getting to the end of the show. I'm going to look.
Oh no, we can't be at the end yet. We haven't even talked about Jeanine Pirro, or
Jeanine Pirro.
Yeah, or the fact that she tried to indict this former Olympian for vandalism of the reflecting pool when everybody on the planet, even the armadillos in Texas, know this.
Well, Illusion, thank you. I agree, and I think that is a great way to heal America and the divide between Roger and I know all of y'all could feel that. Really, guys, if you uncap the House of Representatives, I have a sneaking suspicion that Roger and I are going to get along a little bit better.
Absolutely. I know we'll get along better. And the bigger we go when we uncap, the better we'll get along. No, seriously, I've come around. Originally I was an advocate of the cube root rule, and I still like it because of the elegance and the experience that we can point to with the other countries. But your comments and your mentoring, frankly, on AI, I've learned a lot about AI and its potential uses in government from you. And with, I had this fear of deep fakes already. And with what I've learned about AI, I'm more of an article the first guy now. I think we need 6,000 members in the House.
It is. I read something recently about how the tech, there's like 3 or 4 or 5 tech people who basically, because of AI, have suddenly wrestled control from government, like the Department of Defense, that type of level, as contractors, right? That they suddenly, it's kind of like, you think about like Raytheon and Lockheed, like if there's alien tech and they have it, they would have like held something over the government, right? Like kind of like being over it.
Right.
And AI is being described that way. I think I read something in the Financial Times to that effect. Anyway, it is. It would be great if there were principled tech people watching who decided, right, if they had just come into power, right, to make uncapping the House part of the transition, right? I so agree with Illusion that uncapping the House is the simple way to begin to heal trust. And trust has been eroding since Vietnam and Watergate and Nixon. And, it takes generations, but, I think we're the generation to get it done.
I don't disagree, but this idea that, that Trump is going to change his mind and uncap the House, or these tech pros that have all this power now are going to suddenly flip and decide to give this power away by uncapping the House, or that any of the other powerful figures in our current oligopoly are going to willingly agree to uncapping the House is a fantasy. We are going to have to drag them. We're going to have to drag them kicking and screaming.
I disagree.
They don't think so. It depends on how you define interest. If their interest is in continuing public service, yes, it's in their interest. But too many of them are not interested in public service. They're only there to leverage.
I'm talking about, American Express and General Electric and IBM and yes, Facebook and SpaceX and
so
Amazon.
they want a larger House that's going to hold them to account?
I think that they understand that they have to redistribute wealth, right? Is part of the AI understanding is that it's going to make things pretty like stupid cheap really fast. Like you're talking about how Americans are currently kind of too lazy to be bothered. I think that it's going to get worse. And do they have an incentive to keep it that way? I think you could argue yes, but I think that they also fundamentally understand this thing called reinforcement learning, right? And that these systems get better as you interact with them, and the customer service is iterative, right? And I do think Jeff Bezos understands customer service really well.
It's an expense. He doesn't like it.
No, I think he actually does. I think he put more money on the customer service line or column than most others who were trying what he did. I have always had great customer service from Amazon. I just have. And what that has meant is he has always protected the customer over the product seller for the most part.
I can't debate that. I haven't studied it enough. However, I think there's something you said, and you're right, we're over time. We got to end this, but there's something you said just a few minutes ago about AI. Very soon, AI is going to make stuff stupid cheap. Yeah. Just because it's stupid cheap to produce doesn't mean it's going to be super cheap to purchase. This is where there's a fundamental disconnect between the corporation and their customers. Corporation wants
it's going to make it so easy
whatever
to
the market will bear.
That. No, but here's the deal. It is actually, but it also makes entrepreneurship much easier, right? AI
will deny me as an entrepreneur what I need to succeed if I'm not toeing the line.
No, because there's so many models, right? I mean, what I'm finding is there is kind of this symphony of models out there already, and they are doing different things, and you can use them to cross-check each other, and they say and think differently, and
yeah, they hack each other now,
and
they're attacking each other.
They are stupid smart. I mean, they perform better than humans on a lot of tasks.
Well, that was the thing last week. They had a machine doing AI that wasn't connected to the internet.
Yeah.
And it found a way to connect itself to the internet and hack a competitor. Yeah. This happened. This is real. It was reported by, and now another one's done it. I heard
Skynet is here.
Yeah, but it's not going to be there's not going to be Terminators walking around. There's not going to be big machines killing people. That's not the way it's going to unfold.
Yeah.
They'll just shut it down. And you'll be scrambling for water and food.
So for the sake of my newborn daughter,
it's overtime. Yes.
The effing house.
I agree.
And I look forward to seeing you next week, Roger. And we need to get some guests on. So if folks have ideas for guests or connections with people that you'd like us to bring on, feel free to shoot me a email, w@y435.org.
Yes, give us another face in the room to cut into my time so I don't get so agitated.
Keep Roger in check. All right.
Yeah.
w@y435.org. Okay, my friends, family, go forth, prosper, pray,
and don't hurt nobody.
Have a good
whatever
day.
You do. Uncap the house.